USDA forecast record corn and soybean production in its September crop report, then raises questions with its latest update to acreage. How big are the 2014 crops? I'll take a look at this question on a special edition of The Buzz. USDA's September estimates were even bigger than the records we anticipated. The agency put corn production at 14.395 billion bushels on yields of 171.7 bushels per acre. Other methods we used to estimate production also showed very large yields. Our Farm Futures survey in August put the yield at 171.1 bushels per acre for a crop of 14.33 billion bushels. Weekly crop ratings suggested average yields of 170.3 in a range from 169.5 to 171.2, while weather models put the yield up to 173 bushels per acre. Some estimates in the trade are even higher. Satellite vegetation maps improved dramatically in recent weeks thanks to the extended growing season, the source of some of these forecasts. The projections were even more impressive for soybeans. USDA said the crop was 3.913 billion bushels with nationwide yields of 46.6 bushels per acre. Those topped our August survey, which put production at 3.857 billion bushels on yields of 46.1 bushels per acre. Current crop ratings project yields of 46.9 bushels per acre in a range from 46.3 to 47.5 bushels per acre, while weather models go from 43.7 all the way up to a mammoth 49.1 bushels per acre. USDA's estimates, prepared by its National Agricultural Statistics Service, or NASS, were larger than its first numbers in August, seeming to support the old saying that big crops get bigger. But then another wing of USDA cast doubt on production with a shocking report on acreage. Farmers participating in government programs must certify their acreage every summer. The Farm Service Agency publishes totals from its offices around the country every month from August to January. This data comes out in the middle of the night, and that's not the only murky part of the exercise. Data from every county in the country with crops is included in the massive file. But the FSA acreage totals never match the numbers put out by NASS. Some farms don't participate in the government program, of course, and it takes time for local offices to submit their numbers, so the totals change from month to month. USDA has released yearly totals going back to 2007, but the monthly reports only date back to 2011. This makes analyzing the data tough because statistical projections based on just 3 years of records can be tenuous at best. There is a correlation between the August FSA totals and NASS's annual acreage estimates for corn and soybeans, but it falls short of achieving statistical significance. That means any apparent connection may only be the result of chance. But FSA's September data shows a strong correlation that passed the bar of statistical significance for corn and fell just short in soybeans. A projection based on this data showed total corn plantings could be 3.4 million acres lower than NASS found in its June survey of growers, or just 88.2 million. That translates into a crop of 13.8 billion bushels using USDA's September yield. A big crop, but not a record. Though not statistically significant, the soybean projection showed acreage down 2.2 million to 82.6 million, which amounts to 100 million bushels of potentially smaller production. At 3.81 billion bushels, the crop would still be huge and a record. So what about the notion that big crops get bigger? That could still be true, of course. Prevent planted data released by FSA suggested little change to acres, and there were some anecdotal reports that FSA offices may be late reporting their numbers due to additional workloads brought on by implementation of the new farm program. Moreover, the statistical underpinnings for the big crops get bigger argument are a bit shaky at best. Yes, when all is said and done, years with above normal yields do tend to see estimates increase from initial August numbers. and years with below normal results tend to see estimates decrease. But these correlations are very weak in August, falling far short of statistical significance. The connection improves in September, but is still irrelevant in soybeans and achieves only minor significance for corn. It isn't until October and November that the confidence levels start to improve, but they're still fairly weak. NASA's September estimate for corn yields was about 8% above the trend or normal year. In the 7 years when the September estimate was more than 5% above trend, the crop got bigger 4 times but shrunk 3 times. NASA's soybean yield estimate was about 7% above normal. In the 8 years when the September estimate was 5% or more above normal, the crop got bigger 4 times and shrunk 4 times. So how do we evaluate these crops? Weekly crop ratings may provide a clue. They've stayed fairly steady at high levels all during the growing season. If that pattern holds, the corn crop shows a tendency to get a little smaller compared to the August estimate. Soybeans show the opposite tendency, with the crop getting bigger. What's the takeaway from this number crunching? Last week, the market was uniformly bearish after the USDA NASS report, making new contract lows. This week, there is at least a glimmer of hope that production, especially for corn, may not be quite as big as expected. That doesn't mean you should plan for big rallies or lock crops up tight in storage, but it makes sense to evaluate some different scenarios. And remember, final estimates aren't finalized for years, pending release of the Ag Census every 5 years. It's highly likely that USDA will increase the size of the 2013 crop at the end of September when grain stocks data is evaluated. Crop estimates are just that, estimates. Nobody counts every kernel or every bean. It's a guess, hopefully an educated one.
We'll have to have more margin now, there isn't any doubt. So you better dash with a load of cash, or we'll have to sell